My name is Victor. I am a senior solutions engineer at Okta. I wanted to talk about the journey to Loginless and really, how we get there, right, to the Loginless, what we need to do first, which is pretty much, go to the passwordless route first. Let me take the clicker. All right, let's see if I can figure this out. Awesome. So we're going to go over a few, challenges and misconceptions about the passwordless and loginless. So, but first we're going to go over, so these are really the misconceptions, but we're going to really see, what are some of the challenges. So I actually wanted to start with giving a little bit of introduction to myself. Again, I cover LATAM. I'm a senior solutions engineer for LATAM at Okta. We're going to learn about Okta today, and we have the booth outside. So if you have any other questions, besides the ones that we can cover here, you can always go to the booth and, we can talk over there. So just a little fun fact about myself. I have 6 cats, right? I keep 2 cats. I like cats, as you can tell. I also grab cats and I take him to do TNR. Does anybody know what TNR means? Like TNR? T-N-R? No idea? All right, we're going to learn about cats today. No cybersecurity. All right? TNR means trap and return. Okay? Or trap, neuter, and return. Which means, I basically take the cats. That helps overpopulation of cats. I live in Miami, so there's like an overpopulation in Miami. And I grab the cats, I take them to do the, neuter so they don't reproduce, and then I put them back, okay, to where they live. So that helps, alleviate the overpopulation of cats. All right, so now to regular programming here. We're gonna talk about, the challenges with passwordless. So, then we're gonna see, what the challenges are, like, what the misconceptions are. Then also, what there's friction in the login experience in keeping security, right? Like preventing fraud. We're going to talk about the personas, like, people who's really interested in having a loginless experience and avoid friction. Okay, and at the end, we're going to see, what the options are, okay, to go passwordless and loginless. So let's paint a picture here. This is Alex. In the future, let's try to imagine what this will look like in a few years from now. So Alex wakes up. As soon as you wake up, I'm sure many of you, take your phone, grab your phone. It's the first thing I do, right? So I wake up, I take my phone, I check the news feed, I check like the stock market maybe, right? Things like that. So whenever she does that, she takes her phone, she does that naturally, right? She doesn't have to put a password or a PIN. The phone recognizes, biometric. And, then she heads out to do some cardio, right? So she exercises, she goes to the cardio machine. It can be, like a walking machine or something like that. And the cardio machine automatically recognizes her. With, let's say, for instance, the body, the weight of the body. It recognizes, for instance, like based on the body composition, right? Because she may use the hands to read the hearts, the heartbeats. And then, that reads, let's say, the muscle she has, all of that. And then automatically identifies that she's Alex, right? Then she finishes working out. And then she goes to take a shower, right? Then she goes to the shower. In the shower has some intelligence built in and recognizes it's her and gives a personalized experience. Okay, so that personalized experience is like, hot water, or the temperature of water she wants, all of that, right? She goes out of the shower, then she goes to work, right? She basically opens the laptop, she's signing with a biometric, maybe face recognition, fingerprint, something like that, right? She does like personal stuff on her computer, as well as work stuff on the computer. In the middle of the day, she then have like a doctor's appointment. With a doctor's appointment, she calls in. It's a video conference call. she goes through a voice recognition, right, to make sure it's her, right? So this is beautiful, right? So she never had to do any typing or remember any password. Like everything was like perfect, right? This is the future. So what happens now, an attacker, a bad actor, he tries to get access to the financial, let's say, institution, right? Maybe, the stock market in her wallet, right? Well, what the attacker didn't know is that that solution behind the scenes had a protection method, right? Which detected that login, that attempt wouldn't be from her. Why? Because, they prevented it, realizing, hey, you're too far, and this is too soon for you to be logging in from that location, right? Which, as we know, let's see, who knows what that is? Like, how is that called? Has anyone heard about impossible travel? Right? So impossible travel will detect this type of behavior and automatically prevent that attack, okay? Okay, so how do we, let's take a kind of step back here and, think about really, that is kind of, if we think about it, that is a little, let's say, a little too much in the future, right? Right now, we're not there. So what do we do? So there are a few options here, but we need to go passwordless first, right? That's how we get to Loginless, okay? And I'm going to show you throughout the presentation what this looks like. Okay, so what is passwordless? If we go back to basics, right? So passwordless is really just the way to authenticate without a password, okay? It's easy, right? And it's also known as passwordless authentication, right? So passwordless authentication verifies a user without requiring something they know, right? The password is just something they know. It could be also a security question. It can be passcode, right? So that is passwordless, like authenticating with authentication methods that doesn't require knowledge-based secret, right? So that's really what passwordless is. With that, let's go to the first misconception. So the first misconception, which is my favorite, is passwords are secure, right? Other authentication methods are not secure, right? So let's see what that looks like. Is anybody familiar with this page, this game, online game? Neopets? I'm not familiar either. So, but I am familiar with this login form. Okay, so this was a very popular game long time ago, and if you Google it, if you go to YouTube, it shows like what the game was supposed to be or what it looks like. So what happens is this form we see today, right? Every time, every day, every portal, right? So what's even worse is right here, forgotten password. Or enter your username below, the box below, and we will email you your password. That's even worse. Why? Because that means they save the password in clear text, right? They don't hash it. So if this page is hacked, then those passwords can easily be leaked, right? People will gain access to that password, put them out there, right, with the username. So, this is something we see today. Now, there is a false, whenever we talk about passwords, we really think about, we've been programmed to think that the passwords are secure, right? And it's not true. The second thing is anything that doesn't use a password is insecure, right? So if this didn't have a password here, like the password field, we will think it's not secure, right? So we've been, programmed to think that. So let's look at some numbers here. Hackers aren't hacking anymore. They're not hacking. They're really, just logging in, right? If you see a lot of the attacks lately or security, let's say, incidents, Uber got attacked, or they had a security incident, I think like 2 weeks ago, right? Uber. And how did they do it? So they basically gain access to the credentials of someone, like an employee, right? They also used, they have MFA, but they also had, they attempted multiple times to do the push notification, and that's how, they were basically the employee, they gave up and accepted the push challenge, saying, yeah, this is me, even though it wasn't them, right? So what happens is also from NordPass, which is like a LastPass competitor, they know, and they release this information. So 100 average number of passwords exists per person, right? So I could have, for instance, in my LastPass, I use LastPass, right? And in my LastPass, I don't know how many, maybe it's more than 100 passwords that I have saved, right? Of which a bunch of those passwords are reused, right? So that's I recognize it, like everybody does it, right? 89% of web application breaches are caused by passwords, right? So, the same thing that happens every day, not every day, but let's say every week, we see like a new hack, right, that happens, and it involves a password, leak, okay? And then there is about $6 million in loss, right, in average, right, for a company whenever they go through an attack, right? This includes losing customers. This includes, having to investigate, invest more in let's say, in the recovery, right, and all of that. This is another misconception, which is friction is a technical issue, and it's not a business imperative, right? Is it? I mean, is it really a technical issue? I don't think so. So the reason we have this misconception, let's take a look at some numbers here. So 92% of people, of users, will quit, will abandon the site due to poor login experience, right? So if I go to a website and then they start asking a bunch of stuff, I try to sign up, right? I try to do like maybe, I don't know, I try to unlock my account, right? And then there is like a lot of friction, then I will quit, easily. Especially when there are competitors out there that do it better, okay? Harris Interactive, they release this information that 88% of people, they have incomplete, or they don't complete the forms whenever they register. Even worse, they put incorrect information, right, just to get done with it, right? So how's that good for marketing, right? So whenever they do like a marketing, campaign, they're gonna have wrong information, right, to get to the destination, to get to the users. And then there is a 4.42% of conversion rates drop, right, for every second that the website loads, right, that website takes loading, okay? Now, what does it mean? So really, traditionally, we've seen the CISOs and the CIO, looking at these, let's say, cybersecurity approaches, making sure, the experience is good, or there's no fraud, right, with the portal, right? But now, there also the chief marketing officer, and we also have nowadays we have the chief product officer looking to improve the conversions, right, in the case of the marketing officer, and, improving the customer experience, right? They all need that. Same thing with the product officer, right? They're looking to get a better time to value, which means, our product is ready to go to sell. We need to see conversion, right? And revenue from it. And of course also, improve the customer experience, right? Something to keep in mind. Another misconception is it's impossible to simultaneously satisfy convenience, security, and privacy, right? Well, it could be, right? It is. I mean, it is, you think about it, and yes, it is challenging. It is impossible. However, let's take a look at this. 77% of businesses try to prioritize delivering a frictionless user experience, right? So they want to have a good user experience. They want to give a good, really good user experience. However, 58% say that fraud prevention stops that, right? So basically, fraud prevention stops, and it's challenging to have a good user experience if we try to have protection, in our portals, right? So let's take a look at this, and this is just one example. Actually, I'll say something that happened to me last night. So, are you guys familiar with this button right here? Right? So, this button lets you buy, super expensive stuff, right? It can be a ring, diamond ring, it can be anything, that costs like $100,000, right? Anything. How do they do that, right? How does Amazon allow this option right here, right? Because really, a bad actor can, have like a password of the account, the credentials, and just, get in, boom, buy something super expensive, especially if they have like a credit card already in Amazon, who doesn't, right? So really what happens here is Amazon creates and builds context around the user, right? We talked about impossible travel, right? It's just one of them. But they also can collect information from the user from time to time and build that context to say, well, if I see something out of context, this button right here won't work, right? You click here, and then, well, you're trying to buy something expensive, which you usually don't buy. You're trying to connect from somewhere else, right? It can be a new city, it can be a new IP, right? All of that. So if I see something suspicious, this button won't work. But at the same time, the user, they have a pleasant experience, right? They don't have to go add it to the cart, then, go through the, let's say, shipping process, adding a credit card, nothing like that, right? So what happens is companies are being forced to prioritize and compromise, right? So they say, okay, so this is not possible, we're gonna wait for the perfect solution, for this. But in reality, there is ways to do it today, right? Another misconception is we can make meaningful progress today, right? Which is what I was just mentioning. This on top is what we saw on that new pet portal, right? The game. And you see like the username or email and password. Well, really what we want to do is, and you may have seen this already, is we ask for the username first, which is known as an identifier, right? It can be a phone number, it can be a username, it can be an email, it can be the CPF, right, the ID. And then based on that information, we then apply context, right, to that user and gives them options to validate themselves, right? You may have seen this, like, I don't know, like whenever you log into Google, right, you now only see like the username and then it gives you like the other options. Well, we give them options, and among those options, we give them a more secure option, which is fingerprint or Face ID, okay? Which is really one of the most, let's say, secure. There is another way to, overcome these challenges, and this is, there are a few options here. So whenever I sign up, or whenever I interact with a website, I can interact with the website in different ways, right? In multiple different ways. I can sign up, right, to the website. With the sign up, I'm interacting. There's some friction because they ask me for, like, what my username, I wanted it to be, what is my phone number, what is my password, like all of that, right? My address, everything, like favorite color, so many things. Especially like B2B, right? Like if you're trying to onboard another business, there's so much information that you collect at that first registration that at some point people get frustrated, right? So what we do is we take this approach and we recommend what we call progressive profiling, right? Progressive profiling, what it is we don't ask everything at first when they register. We ask for things little by little, right? And that's how we create the context of our user, right? So the first time they log in, we collect information, let's say email. Right? All right, just give me the email. The second time they log in, we ask them for, okay, give me your first name, last name. Right? Maybe we ask them first, but then we make it optional. Right? Then the second time they log in, they're going to say, they're going to be prompted and see, like, hey, fill the first name and last name. And then, any other time they log in, we collect additional information. Right? So this is how we create a delightful experience. We create context, and we don't impact, let's say, we actually create the context for building security, and for the user, it's going to be beautiful, right? There is another way to do this, which is guest check-in, right? Actually, there are a few things. So besides sign up, I also log into the websites, with an existing account. I could, try to unlock my account as well, right? Maybe I got logged out or something. And then also when I try to check in or buy something, right, or check out. So when I try to check out, and try to pay for something, have you seen the guest check-in or guest checkout or something like that? Like, whenever you buy as a guest, right? You don't have to register. So that's actually a good option as well, because you're building confidence first. You're building trust with the user, right? They got what they wanted pretty quickly. You don't have anything, any information from the user. Maybe you have like the shipping address and that's it. But now you have gained that trust from the user, right? From the consumer. If they go back and register, they had a delightful experience with the, let's say, guest checkout. There's likely, they're likely going to come back and register. The last misconception is it's too hard to go passwordless, right? Is it? Let's see. So there are a few ways and a few options that will replace the password. Okay. Device biometrics is one of them we have today. Okta, we don't save biometrics, right? So it is all about the device. What biometrics register to the device itself that I use every day. There's another one, the intelligent login, which is what we've talked about, the context that we built. And then based on that context, we give them, let's say, what authentication methods they have, right, to log in. And then security keys, which are the most secure way of authentication, right? It may be like an external security key. You may have heard of like a very popular one. And there are a few other. And then security keys inside the machine, right? Nowadays, like all the, let's say, I would say most of the Macs have biometrics, like fingerprint reader. And then Windows devices, they may have, Face ID recognition. So that also has a TPM, right, module, which is a security module built into the computers. And that's used as a security key. So users expect frictionless experiences and barriers to sign up or to buy something on the website will create abandonment, right? So they will quit. And then, start, like, basically we recommend, with Okta 0.0, with the help, of Okta 0.0, we can help laying that foundation to a loginless future, okay, to a loginless journey. But let's see some customers that we have. And these are very large customers with like a huge base of customers or consumers. Arduino is a open source platform, and they have millions of users. So they increased users conversion 3 times, right, by simplifying the logins, right? So they made it faster, right, to sign up and buy something, and they also made it increase the conversion rate, right? Crate and Barrel, this is a furniture store in the United States. 16%, they saw a 16% increase in customers signing in, right, versus checking out as a guest, right? And as I said before, this could be an option to create the trust, right? However, if you improve that user experience, the users will want to sign up, right, and purchase from your site or your services. Flo is a woman's health application, right? I have a story about this. I was curious about how this works because, I mean, this is for women. And I never downloaded it. I'm sure my wife, maybe she downloaded it before. And I tried downloading it to see what it looks like. And I have an iPhone, right, an iOS device. And when I try to download it, it asks me for, I usually, whenever I try to download something or buy something from my phone, from the Apple Store, it asks me for my biometric, right? So it just goes through the biometric, that's it, right? Because I did it from a different location, right? I did it from my hotel. I'm not in Miami, I'm in Sao Paulo. It actually asked me for something else, right? It actually asked me for the password, right? So as you could see, they do have context that they build, and they say, okay, you're not connecting from your location. You're downloading this application, even though it's free, right? It could have been a paid application too. Let me give you something else, right? I usually don't ask you for the password. I usually just ask you for the Face ID. So give me something else, right? So I wanted to share that with you guys. Okay, so actually I want to skip this one. And okay, so key takeaways. These are things that we've gone through through today's presentation. So challenge the status quo, right? So if you have, or if you see or own a business that has like login and password or username and password, make sure you challenge yourself, right, to go through a loginless mentality, right, and go through what would it be or what would it look like for me to go passwordless, right, which would be the first attempt. Embrace passwordless today, right? So if you have a way to do it, try to embrace it, right? Okta actually has a way to not just passwordless authentication, but also passwordless identity, right? Which means the users don't have to create a password anymore, right? Passwords is optional, right? If you can use or register any other authentication method, that's all we need, right? And then we have multiple options: biometrics, possession, anything. And yes, so right here, basically, this is Okta, not zero. The experts, know, and whomever worked with Okta, they know we have options to help here. All right, and then lastly, these are some of the customers. Okta has been in the Latin business for, I would say, little longer than a year. Auth0 has been a little more. Actually, Auth0 was founded in Argentina. And there's a little more presence of like Auth0. Now Auth0 and Okta merged. And this is the combined customer base in LATAM. Okay, you may see some known logos from Brazil. Okay, but with that, any questions, anything we may have covered or we may not have covered, concerns, we can answer now, or you guys can meet me at the booth. All right.
Okay, thank you, Victor. Thank you very much for the presentation.